look, I have really no problem if people want to express their freedoms. You know, we live in a free country, and freedom of speech is one of the most important foundations. I disagree with you not letting them stay, truly. I hope that they understand the foundation of this country, power of speech, freedom of speech. And this is part of it. Why people are afraid to hear the other opinion. I just told them, if you were in my shoes, if you had the same journey, will you come to the same conclusions? Why the fear? Why the fear to listen to someone, to a human being, to a spiritual being going through a physical experience? Any of us could be in that situation. Anyone. Even if it was an Israeli. And many times I challenged my Israeli friends, if they were born in Palestinian refugee camps, what would they be today? The Israeli defense minister at that time was asked, if you grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp, what would you be? He said, basically, I will be a terrorist. Because our environment shapes who we are. Our environment shape our consciousness. Some of us get stuck in that state of consciousness, and some of us know how to evolve and how to grow and how to see a bigger picture. But this requires to give up things, to get out of our comfort zone and to hit the road towards the unknown. And this is the biggest fear, not only of Muslims and Jews and Christians and atheists. It's a human condition. All of us choose to stay in our comfort zone. I have my allegory of the sheep. The sheep thinks that the shepherd is their best friend. But practically, the shepherd is their worst enemy. Gives them food, water, and they just obey and follow. And this is a human condition. The majority of people need or feel the need for a leader. Even the leader is taking them to a complete destruction. If you look at the Palestinian and the Arab leaderships for many years, where they're taking the Muslim and Arab nations to destruction, and people don't have the power to stand for themselves, to think for themselves. And when they see a different truth, to say no. This is the problem in the Middle East. And I don't know truly why I choose to carry this burden. I just enjoy, my yoga practice, my breathing. I have no need to be here tonight. I am not trying to create a movement, and I'm not trying to fix the world. This has to be the will of every individual. A thirst for freedom. If you're not thirsty for freedom, you will always be a slave. Whether if it was for a religion or for a corporate, different type of captivity, different type of slavery, but it's the same principle. And many people are stuck, whether if it was in the United States of America or if it was in the Middle East. I go back to the topic. So growing up next to the cemetery, I was afraid of that place. It was scary and dark. One day, I saw a group of people going inside to bury a dead man. And I had the courage to go with everyone. I was little, the only boy, with the crowd. They start burying the guy. For the first time, I see the face of a dead man. I was a little scared, but I was scared more when the imam is the Islamic religious person, start talking about what happens after everybody leaves. And this is a fundamental part of the Islamic belief, by the way. What's called torture in the grave. The imam said, after people leave, 2 angels will come and bring this man's soul back to his body, and they will ask him questions. The first question, who is your God? If he doesn't know the right answer, they will torture him. They will ask him again, who is your prophet? If he does not say, Muhammad is my prophet, they will torture him. Now I'm hearing those words. I start to think to myself, I never felt good about this place. And here we go. All this torture was taking place just next place to where I live. And I went back home. And I kept thinking about the torture. I wanted to investigate on my own and see what really happens. I asked my friends if they were willing to go back with me to the cemetery. They refused. I went back on my own, terrified, for the sake of truth. I was only 10 years old. I got closer and closer to the grave, and I tried to listen. Finally, I found myself putting my ear on the soil, and I did not hear anything. Believe it or not, I was very disappointed. I went back to my mother, and I told her, the Imam said 1, 2, 3, and I went back, and none of it is true. She started yelling at me. She became mad. She told me, why didn't you act like all other children? Why do you have to go back to the cemetery? Why didn't you just stay home, do your homework, do your thing? And when she started yelling at me, I started crying because I put lots of effort. It took lots of strength to go back to that grave, to seek the truth. And now, instead of she appreciating what I did, she's yelling at me. When she saw me crying, she told me, son, listen, only animals can listen to torture in grave. People didn't get a chance to hear it. An Islamic theory. It's a fable, but everybody believes in it. Young and old. You will find a 70-year-old man standing there believing what the Imam is saying. For some reason, I had to go back. And this is my life. Going back, even if it has to go to the grave, to go through the experiment, to see the truth on my own. I don't believe in what people say. I don't believe in their theories. Their theories might sound good, even the scientific ones. Once Earth was flat, and that's a scientific fact, and then Earth is a different shape, and that's also a scientific fact. Our minds are very limited, and our senses are very deceptive. And if we are looking for the truth, we need to go beyond the mind. And I'm sure, still young, I'm young too, but all of us at some point will be able to see the truth, and that's not through the mind. Socrates, the greatest philosopher, in my opinion, and also agree with him, the Indian philosophers, the known ones and the unknown ones, all agree at the limitation of the human mind. The allegory of the cave, describing a bunch of people in a cave, looking at the shadow, thinking that it's the truth. How many people are out there believing in theories, looking at shapes and shadows, and they think that this is true? Like those Islamic extremists beheading people for the sake of a theory. Creation of a limited human mind. And when you come to talk and discuss something like this, it becomes a matter of political correctness. And the cycle of violence keeps going on and on. Do you think someone has a desire to leave his family, to disappoint the heart of his mother, to come and stand here and share with you the nature and the real nature of that situation? Who wants to be in this position? None of us. And I had no choice. But when you witness violence at its worst, suicide bombing attacks that Hamas carried. Imagine now a suicide bomber going into a bus or a market, blowing himself up, killing all type of people, not only Israeli people. Americans were killed in the Hebrew University. Palestinians were killed. Israeli Arabs were killed. Christians, Muslims, all type of people. Suicide bomber does not go into a bus and say, hey, everybody, give me your IDs before I blow myself up. he just blew himself up. First of all, killing himself. Second, he's killing other human beings. And this is motivated by certain ideology that needs to be discussed. Someone has to talk about it. And I think here in the free world, we lose our freedom if we just take in consideration political correctness. And we believe that we are superior in our consciousness to other people who live in the darkness and the falsehood. What is our responsibility, as a new generation? It's our responsibility. It's your responsibility. Do you think governments know what's happening in the Middle East right now? Do you think that the United States government knows how to deal with the Islamic State or any other government? We need to create not a movement, not a political party. We need to create awareness. If we don't have awareness of what's going on, the violence will spread and it will go everywhere. It's already happening. At the age of 17, I hated the state of Israel. And if any of you were in my shoes, you would come to the same conclusion. Palestinians, Israelis, people who live in that cycle or endless cycle of violence, they have enough reasons to justify violence. Everybody has their own reasons. I myself spent in Israeli prisons 27 months. I was tortured, beaten almost to death. I was put in a small chair for a long, long time. Night after night and after night without sleep. Listening to very loud music. My father was arrested when I was only 10 years old. I had to take responsibility for my family. And I had to go through the suffering with my mother, side by side. I understand suffering. I understand how much Palestinian people suffer on a checkpoint. How many innocent people were killed. I see the pictures that come in from Gaza Strip. I'm not blinded. But my truth is not limited to a political propaganda. I understand the reality in Gaza. I understand what led to the death of children. Because I understand the motives of the leaderships, whether if it was Hamas or Fatah or Islamic Jihad or any other Palestinian faction. And I cannot be emotional about the situation. We as human beings, if we get stuck in a state of consciousness that calibrates in the falsehood of revenge and shame and guilt and fear, we will never find the light. We will always be in a prison. Forgiveness, tolerance, and conditional love are the higher paths. But they require some sacrifice. They require strength. Many people go through traumas in their lives, and Palestinian people go through hell. But they cannot blame everything on Israel. They need to look within and see the problems in their society and face it with courage. If a leadership is taking a whole nation to destruction, someone has to stand and say, enough is enough. But the easiest thing for the leadership, to lead people to the slaughterhouse, then convince them that they were not the reason. Someone else take the blame. This has to end. For the Palestinian people and for the Palestinian suffering to end. This is the only way. Now, at the age of 17, I had enough reasons. Personal, ideological, political, national, and many other reasons to hate the state of Israel. I bought guns with the attempt to hurt Israelis, to make them feel our pain. Before I used the guns, I was arrested. During the investigation, the Israeli intelligence asked me if I was willing to work for them. They ask everybody. I agreed. And my motive was not to serve the state of Israel. My motive was to take revenge. My motive was to manipulate them so they release me from prison. and give information for Hamas movement. And this is why I agreed to work for Israel. That was my first motive. That was my first level of consciousness working for the Israeli intelligence. Revenge. And again, I had enough reasons. They took my father. They said, we bring him back in 5 minutes. They brought him back a year and a half later. My mother's tears, I remember very well. My friends who were shot, I remember them. The settlers who shot at me when I was only 11 or 12 years old, and I fell in an open grave trying to kill me, I still remember that. I understand the suffering of our people. And this is why I was motivated to take revenge. Now, I thought the Israelis are going to release me from prison. But they said, if we release you, people will get suspicious of you and you'll get killed. We have to send you to prison like other prisoners. You spend some time, and after you're released, we can work together. They sent me to prison, where other Hamas members were. Thousands of them. After my second night, I hear people screaming in pain. And I asked the leader, what's going on? Why people are screaming? I was only 18 years old. He said, those are collaborators with Israel. They gave information for the Israeli intelligence. Hamas used to insert needles under their fingernails, burn plastic on their bodies. 16 people were killed during the time when I was in prison, and hundreds were tortured. They used to bring a prisoner, put him under this amount of pressure, physical and mental pressure, and tell him, who is your network? Who recruited you? Who else worked for the Israeli intelligence? And they would start mentioning names. One prisoner would mention 100 names that they are network, the Israeli spy network. Everybody knows everybody in the Israeli intelligence. This is what Hamas thought. And this is how they tortured hundreds of people. Now, for me, growing up in a house of leadership, my father raised us to think like leaders, not like soldiers. My father used to sit on the dinner table telling me, listen, if I get killed for the sake of Hamas, for the sake of Islam, you take care of your mother and you accept that. I will be in heaven and I will be waiting for you. And he used to make me cry. I thought every time he leaves the house, he's going to get killed. For what? For the sake of this project, for the sake of Hamas organization, for the sake of the Islamic project. And here I am, face to face, seeing a different reality, a different face than the one my father introduced to me about his organization. The killing now is not against the Israelis. It's against our own people. And the method used against our people is brutal. You know, I was in Israeli prison. I did not see them torturing people that way, for pleasure, for revenge. They put some physical pressure on someone when they had information about suicide bomber who was about to kill innocent people, to stop him. And this is understandable. But to torture people that way, that was not acceptable. I start to ask myself this question. Hamas is trying to destroy the state of Israel, to build an Islamic state on the rubble of the state of Israel. This is their aim, this is their goal, and this is not a secret. I start to imagine, what if Hamas achieved their goal at some point of destroying the democratic state of Israel, and they built an Islamic state on its rubble? Are they going to torture our people the same way? Is this their claim of emancipating and liberating our people? Is this the justice? I prefer the Israeli justice in this case. Why the need for a Palestinian state if we want to kill each other? And that's our goal. And this is when I start questioning the nature of my father's organization for the first time. But I was profiting from my father's organization. It's our business. It's our reputation. Like, you know, a son for a mafia boss who's driving nice luxury cars. They don't want to question the reality of their parents and what they do. All they want to do, just live in their comfort and take advantage. And in my situation, I was like a prince. People praised me everywhere I went. And I was protected. Why would I question the business of my Father that is bringing me glory? Why would I care about the suffering of the average person? I could be selfish and just say, let them torture each other. I'm not tortured. Nobody can touch me. And just stay in my comfort zone. But this is not the truth. It was otherwise. Now, after 16 months in prison, witnessing this torture, I was released from prison. And I receive a call from the Israeli intelligence now, because I gave them my word. Even though my intention was to take revenge, now I'm hooked somehow with them. And I wanted to meet them for the first time and say, guys, I'm sorry. I have no interest in working for you anymore. In our first meeting, which, did not take a place like in Starbucks, in a visible world, it was like from a car to a bus to a gas station to somewhere under the ground in Jerusalem. And here I am face to face with the Israeli intelligence. The first question I asked them, why didn't you come to rescue the people who worked for you? People were screaming in pain. They were tortured. And now you have the guts even to come and convince me that I have to continue with you. You don't care for people who work for you. And the answer came that none of those guys who were tortured in prison had a relationship with us, basically. And I said, why am I supposed to believe you? They said, how many people did we connect you with when we sent you to prison? I said, nobody. And they said, this is not how we work. We don't have a network. Hamas thought, and Hamas choose to believe that there is a network. So if one spy is exposed, the whole intelligence service would be exposed. This is not intelligence work. This is somehow stupidity. And this is not how the Israeli intelligence work. For 10 years, I was never introduced to any other agent in the field, in the intelligence world. And this is how it works, I think, for CIA, for FBI, for other intelligence services. Now, I'm not only face to face with the brutality of Hamas against our people and their falsehood of claim to liberate and bring justice to our people. Also, the torture that took place was against innocent people. And that doubled the problem. And now I hear the truth from my enemy. And I sensed truth in what they were saying. And my motive now became curiosity. I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to go and do the impossible. Not for the sake of Israel, not for the sake of Palestine, for the sake of truth. I wanted to know on my own. Just the same exact way I went back to the grave to investigate the torture. Here I am, crossing all the red lines with my father's worst enemies to investigate the truth on my own, alone. And we start meeting. The first thing, the Israeli intelligence telling me, go to school. I thought they're going to give me a mission, give me a gun, tell me go kill somebody. And here they are telling me, go to school, obey your parents, be a good citizen. And that was surprising. I was like, what other surprises are hitting that I didn't know about? The wisdom on the Palestinian streets is that the Israeli intelligence brings someone, force him to have sex with someone else, they tape it, then they blackmail them. And they blackmail his entire family. And this is how they recruit people, by force. Or they put a gun on someone's head. Here I am. I had the freedom to go home. I was not asked to do anything harmful to anything. And I start to understand the law and order of a democratic system. Nobody is above the law in a democracy. And if someone is caught breaking the law, there is punishment. And this is why we see the Israeli prime minister persecuted for example. But we don't see this in the Arab countries, in the Muslim countries, unfortunately. But now, playing this game, this is a very dangerous game. Go and do the forbidden. Having a relationship with the Israeli intelligence in the Palestinian territories is worse than someone raping their mother. You get killed on the spot, and everybody in the street will participate in your killing, even if your father was the top leader of the country. This is why when I exposed myself voluntarily later on, after many years, to say that I worked for the Israeli intelligence, knowing that we did not do anything wrong, all we did, we saved human lives. We stopped a suicide bomber of achieving their goal of killing innocent people. This is what we did. And if that means shameful, and means that brought shame on me, that's fine. Let the rest of the world believe that I'm a traitor. For me, I believed that there was no way to go wrong by saving a human life. Doesn't matter if it was an Israeli or a Palestinian or American. You cannot go wrong by saving a human life. And that's the fuel that keeps me going. It's not politics, it's not religions, it's not rituals, it's not Bibles, it's not Quranic verses. This is not my inspiration. My inspiration to do the right practice and to be righteous, not to be selfish, to feel with others, to understand their pain, and to see the bigger picture, to see the picture of the divine. That in the morning he does not say, okay, today I send the sun on half of the globe and the other half, I'm just pissed off. I'm not going to send the sun. It's not like that. We're all one family, and our ego separates us. Our problem, we identify ourselves with our minds, with our cultures, with our nationality. I'm American, I'm Israeli, I'm a Palestinian. We are all one family, and we are all share the same problems. We share the same conditions. And at some point, we need to come to understand this oneness. Awkward relationship with the Israeli intelligence. For about 3 years, I was not asked to do anything special. I was not asked to spy on anybody. I was not asked to do anything or any mission. At some point, I was in Jerusalem during this time of confusion. I didn't know who my enemy was anymore. I didn't know whether it was the Israelis or the Hamas people. If Hamas knew about my existence, they would kill me. So practically they were my enemies. And my long-time enemies, the Israelis, became my friends. And I saw humanity in them. I saw friendship. And all the lies that I heard from my father, from my people, about the Israeli intelligence became clear. And it was completely different reality. I have to be honest with you. That was not an easy thing. I was lost. Till the moment I was introduced to Christ consciousness. And now I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm not talking about rituals and Bibles or words. I'm talking about a very high state of consciousness that loves unconditionally. The event of the cross, Christ being tortured and killed. I don't care about the accuracy of this. I'm not here to discuss it. I'm not here to preach. But at least in my reality at that time, to see the forgiveness of Christ to his worst enemies who were torturing him and killing him, that brought me to a completely different level of consciousness. And I needed that. Love your enemy. And by the way, this is not only in the New Testament. You will find it in the scripts of the Indian scriptures. It's available. Love your enemy. This is how God, he loves everybody equally. I love my friends and I love my enemies equally. This is how it should be, because we really don't know who our enemies are. We don't see things for what they are, basically. This is our biggest problem, that our perceptual ability is very limited. And we are changing, we are transforming. You know, what you consider enemy or what you considered enemy 10 years ago, ask yourself today, where are they today? Are they still enemies? What you used to consider friends, are they still friends? What did change? It's your perception, and it's your perceptual ability. And by loving our enemy, it's a way to evolve and transcend the low levels of consciousness to higher levels that sees better and sees more clearly. Now, with this new state of consciousness, which, I did not plan, but its truth is very powerful, I had to do something, especially when the second Palestinian Intifada started. Waves and waves of suicide bombing attacks. I hope that none of you will witness something like this. And the brutality of explosions against the human body. It's our responsibility to protect the evolvement of humanity. If everybody disagree with everybody and the only choice that we have is violence, we're done. Humanity will be over. It's our responsibility to keep this wheel going by protecting the evolvement of the human consciousness. It's not only the responsibility of a government or intelligence service, it's the responsibility of every individual. We look at the examples of Mahatma Gandhi. He could be selfish and just do his thing. He was making good money. He was a very successful lawyer. Why would he go and travel third class and just live like the other people and the rest of the people? He could have stayed in his comfort zone. We look at Jesus Christ. We look at Krishnamacharya. We look at all the gurus and the philosophers. Socrates. Who executes Socrates? Why would you execute someone like this? Not only funny, not only bright, not only amazing, who went beyond the human mind. Why do you execute him? Because I believe most people choose to stay in the darkness. We're afraid to face the light. The light gets us out of our comfort zone. Now, as an individual, put yourself in my position. You have information, and you can stop a suicide bomber before they achieve their goal of killing innocent people. What would you do? Forget about, who your father is, where you're coming from as a human being. Tonight, you had a piece of information that someone is about to kill an innocent person. What would you do about it? You say, the mafia is going to come after me? The drug dealers? The terrorist group? All of us can face this fear. But do you want to follow your mind that is limited, or you want to follow your heart? Because you know and you feel in your heart what killing feels like, what it is to shed an innocent blood. You can't chicken out, stick your head in the sand and say, I don't see, it's not my responsibility. I just want to take care of my own stuff. I don't care about saving the world. Some of us say, no, I want to be selfless. I want to do the right thing, even though I lose my family, even though I lose my identity and I become homeless, unrecognized. People in the Palestinian territories are mad at me, and people in the Israeli street don't believe me. In the American society, they think that this is part of a propaganda or maybe a conspiracy. And there you go. You face the unknown. Everybody becomes somehow your enemy. And nobody wants to face this type of reality. But you can't go wrong by saving a human life. And that was my responsibility. That was my duty. I didn't know that one day I would be talking about it. I didn't know that one day I write a book and there will be a movie. When we saved human lives, you know what was the reward? I received a phone call that you have to go to prison for cover. There was no opening bottle of champagne and a party, as we see in the Hollywood movies. Nobody knew about my existence. Nobody told me thank you. I saved Israeli lives, but on my way out of the territory, the Israeli soldiers humiliated me and sometimes beat me. because they didn't know about my identity, and I could not tell them who I was. And you have to live this reality for 10 years, witnessing the madness of the human mind and what it can do. People following fluctuations. Whatever their mind tells them, they just go. This is why we have war. Because we cannot still our mind for a second. We cannot see it from outside. We are mastered by our minds. And just few of us can master our minds. In that reality, I believed in what I was doing. I chose to continue. One day I had 5 suicide bombers coming looking for my father. They were coming from Jordan and about to commit a suicide next day. They showed up on our door looking for my father. I told them, my father is not here. How can I help you? They said, we lost our connection and we need a safe house just for a few hours. They were supposed to kill Mosab Yousef. This is the highest Israeli rabbi at that time, by sending 5 suicide bombers in the crowd in Jerusalem and kill hundreds of people. And they said, we need a safe house just for a few hours till we get ready. We're afraid that our connection would mention our safe house and it's not safe anymore. I told them, I have a solution for you. In a situation like this, you cannot let 5 suicide bombers to go on the run, because the next thing you will hear only on the news that there's an explosion somewhere and hundreds of people are dying. I had to act immediately. I couldn't tell them, wait a second, let me call my Shin Bet friends and see what we can do. So again, it becomes an individual responsibility. I told them, what's in the car? They said, our tools and our gear. I look inside the car. It was full of explosives. Explosive belts that they put on the body. And other explosives, machine guns. I told them, guys, first step for safety, you cannot take the car. I have to put the car in a safe place. And here is money. And here is an address. You go to that address and you wait for me. I took the car and I informed the Israeli intelligence. Within 30 minutes, the Israeli Prime Minister decided to drop a bomb on their apartment and kill all of them. The reason was not revenge, by the way. The reason, because they could not arrest them in case they mentioned my name. And the Israeli intelligence did not want to blow my cover. They wanted to kill them and kill the secret with them. Because Israel does not tolerate someone who's helping suicide bombers. Are we good on time? I just need about 5 to 10 more minutes, okay? Thank you. It's a very delicate situation. If they are arrested, they will be asked during the investigation, who gave you the safe house? Who gave you money? They will mention my name. If they mention my name, I have to go to prison for at least 15 years. And there is no other way. If they are killed, I'm saved. But now again, to love your enemy and to that level of consciousness, how can you save Israeli lives and be okay with killing Palestinians? I cannot compare this to that, because this is a terrorist aiming to kill innocent people and those people doing their job. And I cannot compare this to that. But I did not want to take responsibility and put blood on my hands no matter what, even if it was the blood of a terrorist. And this is my personal choice. For 10 years working for the Israeli intelligence, I was not involved in killing any human being. And I'm very thankful for this. Now, I insisted and I said, you arrest them. They arrested them while in the vehicle, they mentioned my name. One of them at least. The person who mentioned my name was sent back to Jordan, where he's coming from, without interrogation, without spending a minute in Israeli prisons. And immediately his group thought that he was the one who gave the information about them. And he became the wanted. And we staged a big production. The Israeli Defense Forces came in an attempt to arrest me, and I escaped in a miraculous way. Of course, it was staged. The Israeli Defense Forces did not know about my existence. They came truly after a terrorist. This is what they thought. The media covered the event live, and everybody believed that I was wanted by the Israeli intelligence. And that gave me another layer of cover. This is how intelligence work, by the way, goes. Many things we look and we think, oh my God, they came, tried to kill him. This is how they made it sound like. They launched a missile into our house. They burned half of the house. In my room, I found 150 bullets in the wall. To show my mother, to show everybody, to show the IDF that we are serious of killing this terrorist who's helping other terrorists. And by the way, that made the Hamas military wing trust me, which I end up hanging out with other wanted people because I became wanted now, and gave us access to their locations, and we continued our operations to get to the masterminds who were behind the suicide bombing attacks, and we stopped dozens and dozens of suicide bombing attacks. That's not only my duty, it was the duty of a team. I took part of it. I consider that I did nothing. And I'm sharing with you, not because I want to claim anything or take any credits. I'm sharing with you to show you the difference from the place where I started, the level of consciousness that calibrated in falsehood, that was seeking revenge, to a higher level of consciousness that cares for the life even of a terrorist, even of the animal. By the way, at some point, I used to eat animal, and today I don't eat animal. And sometimes I would be in the jungle, and those mosquitoes, it's like they give me a very hard time, and I cannot even kill a mosquito. So I ask myself, what is this? What type of evolution is this? And if it's possible that it happens in this form, it's possible to happen in the form of the ISIS, the Hamas, the Hezbollah. This does not mean that we sleep and we don't fight the ones who are trying to harm and kill children and innocent people. We have to unify against this danger. But in the meantime, we believe that it's possible for any human being to evolve and to grow and to see a higher truth. This is my journey. I'm sorry if I left any gap in my story. We can cover some of it in the Q&As. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. God bless you.
Thank you. You conveniently did not mention another truth, so I thought I'd try to succinctly share another truth that significantly happened this summer. When UN schools were bombed, power plants were destroyed, water supplies were destroyed. Over the whole period that Palestinians have been occupied, 28,000 homes have been demolished. Educational infrastructure has been demolished. 1,800 civilians were killed this summer, Palestinian. 10,000 wounded. 300 babies, 1 year old, 2, 3, 4, and children. 300 were killed by the Israelis. 3 Israeli civilians were killed. 3, as you know, 64 Israeli soldiers. South Africans fought against the South African regime.
What's your question, please? I know the facts. I'm very familiar with them, maybe more than you think.
15 more seconds. The French fought against the Nazi occupation. Other Western powers...
Are you comparing Israel to the Nazis?
No, I'm saying it's Nazi-like behavior that the French fought against and that the Americans fought against. The Germans knocked down the Berlin Wall. So I ask you,
what
rights do the Palestinian people have to overthrow the Israeli regime supported by Americans to the tune of $8.5 million a day? And what's your responsibility to deal with this situation? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your passion. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the facts that you said, and I'm not blinded. And I think the Israeli government also is very aware of what you're saying. I think Palestinian people need to have the courage to face Hamas, and to throw them out of the Gaza Strip. When Hamas people hide behind children in very populated areas and launch missiles and put an entire democratic country under the range of their missile, you had
the children, not Hamas, that also is responsible. I'm talking about Israelis killing 300 children.
Yeah, well, Israel asked the Shuja'iyya refugee camp to evacuate. They gave them 48 hours to get out of the area. Hamas asked them to stay in the area. And when Hamas launched a missile from a populated area, what are you expecting? If you were the prime minister of Israel, if you were an Israeli citizen, going to your work in the morning and you see a missile fly in the sky, how are you going to feel about this? I think you're coming from a very hypocritic place. I don't mean to insult you, but you are blinded to the reality. It's not about did you want to see thousands of Israelis killed? So you see an equal picture. You're comparing that was only 60 Israelis dead and thousands of Palestinians dead, and you think that this is not just? This is not the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground, there is a radical, ideological, religious movement that does not care for the Palestinian national agendas, and this movement is taking the entire region to destruction. Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority are aware that the enemy is within, that their worst enemy is not Israel. They know that they can negotiate with Israel. And they know, and they know that Israel is not their worst enemy, but Hamas is their worst enemy. And, time will prove what I'm saying. Thank you for your question.
Mr. Yousef, I appreciate you speaking about the importance of saving human lives, moral rectitude, and really seeing reality where there are shadows on the wall instead of fixating on those shadows. Right. It seems we're actually in agreement about all these things. I'm happy to hear them from you. Right. You just have to explain one point that I'm a little confused on. Sure. Why, if you believe these things about the importance of saving human lives, do you defend the politics of a country that has consistently impeded a peace process between two belligerent factions after Oslo, Madrid, Camp David, Annapolis, by violating international law and extending colonialist apartheid settlements into the West Bank? Why do you support the side in this conflict that is looking to further shed human blood and not solve it? That is pandering to a radical religious minority in its own right, just like you said at Hamas, within its own politics, when it very well could remove the IDF from the West Bank and disband the settlements like it did in Gaza in 2005. Why are you choosing this side of the conflict if you care about saving human lives?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not choosing sides here.
By working for the Shin Bet, you're not choosing sides?
Working for the Shin Bet was for the higher interest of humanity. It was not for a political party. And the human interest of humanity is saving human lives. And I was very clear that we did not only save Israeli lives. If you can go back to the records and find how many Arabs, how many Muslims, how many Americans were killed in Hamas suicide bombing attacks, then you will understand that the mission of the Israeli government as a democracy was not to save Israeli lives only. Your life could be in danger if you were in a bus in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. You would have been a target yourself. I grew up in the West Bank. Before 1967, when the Arabs came to trying to destroy the state of Israel and throw it in the sea to make it food for the fish, Israel had nothing to do with the West Bank. The West Bank is a result of an aggression against the state of Israel, an attempt to destroy the state of Israel. And this is why we have the 1967 situation. For 60 years, the leaderships in the Palestinian territories and the Arab countries, unfortunately, they did not try to build a Palestinian state. Israel was willing to give back that land to the Arabs and to the Palestinians. But their attempt was to destroy the state of Israel, and this is the source of the problem. If their attempt was to build a Palestinian state, there would have been a Palestinian state by now. But for 60 years, they tried to destroy the state of Israel, and now they're coming after 60 years trying to build a Palestinian state. This is why we have a problem. Israel withdrew from Gaza Strip. What do we have today in Gaza Strip? We have Hamas building tunnels, Putin children and women as shields and causing the death of thousands of people, inviting Israel for a war that Israel does not like, to a muddy and bloody field. Is this what you want to see in the West Bank? I think it would be a big mistake given Palestinians a state in the West Bank before they approve that they're capable of controlling the mob on the ground. Mahmoud Abbas does not have authority on the ground. Hamas has the authority. Hamas is not a national organization. Hamas is a terrorist, religious, ideological organization. First of all, we need to see the strength of the Palestinian Authority withdrawing Hamas and taking over the street and showing a perfect democratic responsibility and system. After that, I think it would be a good idea to give Palestinians a Palestinian state.
I've got to correct you on one point. You see that the Palestinians in the West
It's not
Bank
a debate.
You
asked your question and I answered.
You're talking about looking away from shadows on the wall.
Right.
But you're saying you're not recognizing that Israel violated the very UN resolution that gave it statehood by currently imposing colonial settlements in the West Bank. And you're saying that the Palestinians were first not to want their state. Israel violated the.
I'm not here to say who's first and who's second.
Interpret the Treaty of West.
You asked me about my personal opinion. I think it's a big mistake giving any Palestinian leadership any piece of land with open borders when we see the danger of ISIS. Do you know where ISIS? You know how far it is from the borders? When we see the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan, when we see the situation in Syria, when we see the situation in Egypt, and we go and tell Mahmoud Abbas, the weak Mahmoud Abbas, who does not have control over his own people, tell him, okay, here's a free border, do whatever you want to do. Nobody will accept this, and I think if Israel accepts this, I will be the first to oppose. Thank you for your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for speaking. You spoke very beautifully, and I appreciated the metaphor about the sheep and the shepherd describing people who blindly follow their leadership.
You can quote me if you like.
Okay, I will. But so I'll ask, do you agree that we can apply this metaphor to the American citizenry, politicians, and news media who continue to refuse to acknowledge and confront the injustice and violence perpetrated against innocent Palestinian civilians by the State of Israel?
I think there is no quick fix for the situation. First of all, we need to create an awareness again. And one of the reasons that I'm speaking here, trust me, not to push Israeli political agendas. I served the State of Israel for many years. And when I was facing deportation in this country, where was the State of Israel? They weren't there for me. And I almost was deported to death. But I did not give up on Israel. Not because of any reason except I believe in the Israeli model. That region does not see real model of democracy. And Israel is not only a political system. When we think about the Jewish nation, the Holocaust, what they had to go through, what they sacrificed, the light, the values. Look at how many filmmakers, artists, writers, thinkers, scientists, how much this nation gave the world. And I find it impossible, to be surrounded by all those enemies who are trying to destroy it just for being a Jewish state. And I know the motives and I know the mentality of the people. I support Israel because it's a democratic state. And I think the first thing American people need to do, you as a new generation, you need to understand, you need to choose. There are two models, the Islamic State model and a democratic model in the region. I'm not saying Israeli or Egyptian. You have to choose. Israel is fighting on behalf of the Western world against radicalism, against the Islamic extremism. And if Israel fails in this fight, who's going to do it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to go to Iraq? Are you going to go back to Egypt tomorrow when the Muslim Brotherhood took over?
My question is, do you agree that in the spirit of taking the covers off of our eyes and not following blindly what our leaders have to say, that we should push as American citizens for more transparency in the news media, for more transparency from our government, and in order to let ourselves be truly educated to gain a real understanding of the violence perpetrated against the Palestinian people by the Israelis.
It's not against the Palestinian people. It's the leaderships of the Palestinian.
2,000. Just this summer, 2,200 Palestinian civilians.
The United States of America killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. The Syrian regime is killing hundreds of thousands of people.
And I agree that
war is ugly. You need. I tell you what you need to do. You need to face reality. War is ugly. If you invite people to do war, don't expect, that's going to be peaceful. Hamas invited Israel for a war. They need to deal with the consequences. War is ugly. There's blood. It's as simple as that.
Complete agreement with you. Right.
Yeah. Well, those innocent people don't. Okay, those innocent people. Why those innocent people? Why don't you come take the platform? Are you here to speak or you have a question? What is it? Why didn't you go to Gaza and fight on behalf of Hamas? Why are you here? Why didn't you go to Gaza? Why? Yeah, go protect those children. If you care for them, why didn't you go and live their miserable life and carry their pain? What do you know about the Palestinian pain? What do you know about the Palestinian children? Silence is better. Silence for you is better because you're speaking of not truth.
Answer my question. So you don't believe, okay,
Hey, thank you. Thank you for coming to speak with us.
Thank you.
For sharing your wisdom, for your message of love, even in situations where it is difficult for all of us to see the right path forward. I respect and honor the fact that you are trying to see that. My question is a bit more on a personal note, if you don't mind. Do you have any sort of contact with your folks back home, with your family? And if you don't, would that be something you want or you think you could procure?
Right. Well, since the publishing of my book, my father disowned me publicly. And since that point, I did not speak to my parents. And this is something that I accept. I take it with a good heart. I'm not a person who raised the cause of children to protect my personal and selfish desires. I paid a very high price, and I'm happy with it. And I hope that this will open the eyes of many Palestinian children. I lived their struggle. I was very young when the first Palestinian Intifada started. I did not understand the answers. I did not see the dynamics of that conflict. At some point I saw it. I fought against it. I will continue to fight against it, even if this means me losing my life. I will continue. Thank you for your concern.
Hello. You spoke poignantly about the violence and abuse of Israel towards Palestinian people in various of your anecdotes, but you have argued that the Palestinians should shun the understandable desire for violence and retribution. I completely agree with that. But don't you think that this equally applies to Israelis? I think this is a similar vein that some of the previous questioners have put forward. Israel has shown an understandable, I think, somewhat understandable impulse for the disproportionate use of military force towards the occupied territories. I just feel like kind of framing this as a very kind of simplistic, almost like Hamas versus Israel kind of dichotomy is not very helpful, and making it Hamas being the embodiment of evil. And obviously I don't endorse Hamas and I don't like their tactics, but Israel's also done a lot of really counterproductive, really bad things. And I think that kind of having a more nuanced view where you apply the same standard to both sides, or maybe even a higher standard to Israel, given that it's in fact a state, is I think more productive. And I just don't feel like I am getting that from you.
Okay. Let me give you this fact. History did not start, just yesterday or a year ago. If you look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and you look at the wars between Arabs and Israelis, you're going to find that 89% of the wars were initiated by the Arabs against Israel, and Israel was defending itself in the majority of the time. And that's by itself, I think, should be enough. But if you want me to extend, I'm happy to do that. The clash between Palestinians and Israelis is not a clash between two political systems. There's two different values. A country that believes in certain values, and by the way, Israel, in my opinion, I have been here in the United States now for about 8 years, and I know the reality in Israel. I know the system, I know the decision makers there, and what the country stands for, its values. It's no different than the United States of America, just to be honest with you. It's just a small America, but in a different region. And people in that region don't like the United States of America. This is why they don't like Israel. They don't like freedom. Look at women. You know, when Arabs know how to respect women, then we can come and say, you know, we fight for your cause. We stand for you. But here you are standing and defending the cause of Palestinian people while a father kills his daughter because she dated a guy or she met a guy. Or someone, when we see all type of violence, internal violence, a brutal culture that does not tolerate or respect anything that is not Muslim, anything that is not Arab, that's a problem. In Israel, you will find Arabs. In Israel, you will find mosques. In Israel, you will find Christians. You'll find Jews. You'll find all type of people. And they have representatives in the Knesset. And they have human rights. They have equal rights. And by the way, they have equal rights why they don't serve the state of Israel and they don't serve the army. This is a true model of democratic country. And the clash, because the other side does not like this. The other side does not respect religious freedoms. The other side does not respect women's rights. The other side does not respect humanity, does not respect animals. And with that said, this clash is invisible, is beyond the political conflict. And I'm telling you, what Israel is facing does not want to face. And I hope that at some point, people will come to realize this.
Can I just have a quick follow-up?
That's enough, thank you, because I think we have a couple more questions and I'm kind of done here.
Hello. Hi. My name is Ellie, and I'm a co-chair over at UMass of a group called J Street U, which advocates for a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. And I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to ask you, so just today, Israel approved a new settlement block in the West Bank. And you said that you feel like Palestinians are not ready for their own state. I would disagree. But I did hear you say that you think that a two-state solution is a viable solution to this conflict. And I'm wondering if, given that in a two-state solution, the Palestinian state would be at least somewhat in the West Bank, if you are willing to publicly condemn the expansion of settlements, and if not, why?
Well, I believe construction is better than destruction. Those settlements, by the way, that considered settlements are not settlements, they're cities. People were born there. It's their home. And I think this is a new reality that Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians need to accept. For the Palestinians, you know, if they want really a state, the majority of Jordan is Palestinians. About 2/3 of the population are Palestinians, just for your information.
So you don't support a Palestinian state?
I support, you know, it's like Gaza can go with Egypt and part of the West Bank can go with Jordan, and the solution will be perfect. Why Palestinians want their own? We have 22 models of Arab countries, and we see how they treat women. We see how they treat human beings. We see how they treat animals. And I think I prefer to see Israeli construction in that land better than any other thing.
Thank you.
This is what I think.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm Vice President of the Smith-Israel Alliance, and I wanted to come to thank you for coming. I agree with you about the importance of truth and why it's important to show truth.
Okay.
What can you say? What can I say to kind of just explain to people that there is some sort of objective truth when people just don't want to hear it? What can be done when people are trying to delegitimize your reality and your experience and my reality and my experience because of ignorance? How can we continue to fight the good fight in favor of truth?
Well, this is like, you know, what is a solution for the human condition? And I believe that there is a solution for the human condition. It's not a Palestinian-Israeli problem. It's a universal problem. And if a bunch of American kids were to grow up in a Gaza refugee camp, they would be Gazans. And if a bunch of American kids or French grew up in Israel, or this gentleman here, he would be part of the IDF. Our environment shaped us as we are. And I think it's possible for us to see through. But we cannot stay in the dark and cry for the light. Someone has to light a candle. I believe, and I witnessed before the first Palestinian Intifada, we were able to go to the Israeli areas. Palestinians were able to work. My father, who is a top Hamas leader and founder of the movement, I remember him serving Israeli families in our home, in our family's home, food with his hand. And that changed 6 months after, when the first Palestinian Intifada started. It is possible for people to transcend all those differences and see the oneness. This is a human condition. And by the way, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not the only conflict. Don't be blinded, when you see what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Iraq, what's happening in Egypt, and what will happen. This is our responsibility. It's beyond political conflict. And I believe we are able, but we need to face the truth. War is ugly. First of all, Palestinians, if they are looking truly for independence, they need to renounce violence completely. Hamas needs to give up their arms, their missiles. They need to stop digging tunnels. They need to withdraw from populated areas. And this is the first practical step, I believe. Otherwise, there will be war. And I will not blame it on Israel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Prince Ali. I am proudly to be a Muslim. You're saying, basically, that innocents are dying on the Israeli sides.
Right.
Aren't you saying that? But what everybody else is saying here is that they're killing everybody else who's has nothing to do with Hamas. Babies, women, children. I'm pretty sure in every religion, Muslim, Christianity, Judaism, okay, that innocents are not meant to be killed. And if they are killed, the true terrorist is not a part of that religion.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying Muslims, Arabs, you can't just blame Muslims for this. Every Jewish person knows, every Israeli knows why they were kicked out of Palestine.
Yes. Can you please give me your question? Just a direct question. Just your question. I understand your point of view.
I'll tell you the truth so you can give them the true question.
That's your truth,
Yeah.
based on your mind. But I would like to hear your question.
If you go back to education, everybody's clapping here. I have no idea why, because they haven't read books lately. I can obviously see that.
Okay, nobody claps from now on. No one. Okay, they're not clapping anymore.
First of all, they're laughing now, but when the
Okay, nobody laughs. Please.
all right.
What is your question
My
now?
question is
Yeah.
why are you defending a lie? Why are you defending the lie? Why?
Right. Okay, this is
innocent people are dying. I've been there.
okay. I want to make it easier for you,
Right next to Israel.
my friend.
Across mountain from where my house is and been in Israel.
Okay. You just said that I'm defending a lie.
Millions.
You just said that I'm defending a lie, and
Defending an enemy.
Okay, sure.
You should be defending the innocent and the truth.
Okay, good.
You shouldn't be with one person. You should be with all the people.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. This is your perception, and this is your perceptual ability. If I am defending a lie, well, thank you for being respectful. Apparently, you asked a question and you're not even interested in the answer. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I apologize on behalf of my friends, my enemies, for creating this state of controversy. Again, this is the reality in our world. I think we have to face it with courage. There are going to be situations like this. This is not a division. I think this is healthy. This is where people can come together, discuss things, talk. It's better than bombing each other. And I hope that you and him and she, everybody will go together and create a new reality. Thank you. Love you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. There will be a book signing taking place directly in the back with Mosab, and we're showing his movie Green Prince next week on Wednesday. Thank you again.